Hello, welcome to episode number 45 of the All Things Sports Podcast. My name is Zach Bischoff. I am joined by not one, but two lovely guests. My co host to my right, Mr. Danny Shanholzer, and down below me, Mr. Ethan Swazarski, who is faithless this evening. Welcome, both of you gentlemen. How are you both doing today?
Doing great, Zach. Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, it's exceptional time to be alive here in the sports world. So I'm a very happy guy. I'm a very happy camper.
All right, first, let me make a slight adjustment here. We will first talk about Super Bowl 57 that took place last evening. Both of you, Danny, you first, then Ethan, your thoughts on the game and the game, and then the commercials, and then the ending. In that order, please.
Game commercials ending. Got it. All right. No, Zach.
And halftime, if you're so.
Halftime.
Lot
of bases to cover here.
Yeah.
No, but obviously, Super Bowl. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, man, for climbing the mountain, man. I mean, where to start? I really thought that. It was a great game. It's exactly what you want in a Super Bowl, competitive until the very end. I mean, just to start for the keys for the Chiefs, kind of, I thought they didn't start out the best, right? They had to come from behind. They didn't make it easy on Patrick Mahomes there, but I mean, their defense made a stop when they had to, and they scored on every single possession of the second half, man, which I think is pretty remarkable, man. Again, I really think the defense for the Chiefs really made stops when they had to, man. I mean, obviously, letting up 35 points, that's not a great defensive performance, but they really were able to limit the Eagles' rushing attack. And I've said it on this podcast, and the key for Philadelphia was their running game. Now, obviously, it worked because Jalen Hurts had 3 rushing touchdowns, but it didn't work. I think Jalen Hurts was very effective, scrambling. I think he had 15 rushes for 70 yards. But obviously, their running backs, Miles Sanders and company, weren't really helping them out very much. But I mean, I every time we talk about the Chiefs, I always go back to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I really think he's got that it factor, man. He is the guy. He makes, and this is not news, but he makes every single person around him better. I thought Andy Reid called a heck of a game last night, man. And I just think the two of them together are special, and I really think that's what made the difference.
Oh, well, I mean, this game was. I mean, it was sure interesting. There's no question about it. I mean, there were definitely some high points and low points. I obviously don't think it was the worst Super Bowl I've ever seen. I think that has still held by the Rams and Patriots Super Bowl 53 4 years ago. But no, nonetheless, these teams went back and forth. We knew it was going to be an offensive contest. The question was Patrick Mahomes going to be able to move the ball, especially with his high ankle sprain against a really good Philadelphia defense? And in the first half, frankly, no. Granted, they weren't on the field as much. They were, Philadelphia was out there 24 minutes just in the first half alone. They're out there 10 minutes longer than the Chiefs were, and that's how you beat Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
But what happened is Kansas City went in with a better mindset. They went out, they made some adjustments. They said, we're here to win. Let's do it. Let's not let what happened to us just 2 years ago be the same thing that happened again. We want to win. So you know what they did? They went out and did the exact same thing. They made adjustments. They countered for a very impressive Philadelphia offense. And at the same time, the Philly defense didn't make any adjustments. They let up 24 points in that second half. Yeah. Kansas City never punted. They didn't give up the ball again. Obviously, no turnovers on both sides. Besides a fumble from Jalen Hurts just by switching the ball from hand to hand in the first half. It's the only real turnover. It was a clean game, mostly clean game, not a lot of penalties, but there were some impactful ones. Whether you want to include that holding call or not on James Bradbury on Juju Smith-Schuster, I look at it like this: that game, that penalty was impactful, but it didn't decide the game. There's so many other factors that go into it. I think a few people have maybe taken this penalty call a little too far into as a factor if this is an important game or not, or important impact of the game. Because there were other things. Granted, you also admit James Bradbury admitted he held his jersey. He said, "I tugged it." Like they got the right call. And even Nick Sirianni was like, "Look, they got to make the call in a split second. It could have went either way, but there was other factors to the game, like I just mentioned." So, game was exciting. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it because I think the receiving wise, it was the most fun at part of it because there were a lot of really good catches, mainly on the Philadelphia side. But I mean, nothing really surprising that because we knew what these teams are able to do. Commercials, frankly, were lackluster. It was nothing pretty. I really thought that 90% of the commercials I saw, the reason I spent so much time on my phone during the commercials is because they were not worth my time. I think the best commercial, if I had to give it to anybody, was I like the flag football commercial. With the inclusion, of course, with women in football and in sports, I thought that was really cool how they involved all the great defensive players, old and new, with Jalen Ramsey. They had Sauce Gardner-Johnson. They had Aiden Hutchinson and our very own Cam Hayward. I thought that was awesome. I thought it was a ripper flag out. I think that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
but that was the best commercial. The Tubi TV commercial had the best reaction.
Yeah,
I like that one.
I enjoyed watching the reaction. The commercial itself was kind of dumb, but yeah, no, that's. I mean, it is what it is. And I forget what's the last thing you wanted for me to talk about.
It was let's see.
Come on.
All right.
No, can I jump in for a quick sec? Because I'm curious to hear everybody's thoughts on this, right? And I was thinking about this as we, talk about the ending, and obviously, if we want to keep, I'm just curious to hear everybody's thoughts on this. So, Travis Kelce said that nobody believed in them, and that's what motivated them. Now, I understand, okay, that the Kansas City Chiefs had lost a very important offensive weapon in Tyreek Hill going to the Dolphins, but they still had Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce, man. I mean, I understand if that's what motivates you, then great. But I just think that that was a little too I think that was a little too overblown in my opinion. That just speaks to how I know I'm a little bit all over the place here, but that just speaks to how
yes, you are.
Yeah, always am, right? But yeah. That just speaks to how good Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid really are together. Because Andy Reid, he really. Travis Kelce said a couple of weeks ago on the Pat McAfee show that he could drop a play to get his dad open. So I mean, again, I think that tandem is just something special. And all the credit in the world goes to Andy Reid because I mean, obviously. Tyreek Hill is a big loss, but they had Juju Smith-Schuster was a huge contributor down the stretch. So it's obvious that Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid definitely helped. They definitely developed a really nice offensive game plan for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs certainly executed that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, just my brief thoughts on the game. You figured I let most of you do the talking. I just asked the questions on this. All right. So my thoughts on the game. No, sir. Ethan. My thoughts on the game. It was, I thought it was a really, really good game. I mean, high power, two high powered offenses going at it. Both teams were 14-1, I believe. But it's interesting.
Both were 14-3.
Or 14-3. Yes, excuse me. I always make at least one or two mistakes per episode, but we're all human. Yeah, I think I disagree with both of you on. I think that holding penalty played a very, very, very large factor in deciding the game. And I will let Ethan slander me at this time because I know he wants to.
No, because the call could have went either way. Because did it impact the game? Yes. Did that? I really don't believe in my heart of hearts that Bradbury affected Juju Smith-Schuster being able to catch that ball. That ball is uncatchable. Yeah, I think everyone in the world can agree on that. Mm-hmm. Where I do disagree is where people say it impacted the entire game and it's the reason the Eagles lost, because that isn't true at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you were to say it's the reason the Eagles lost, then I'd slander you. I mean, it could have went either way. He did tug him, but at the same time, it didn't affect the catch. It was an impactful call. but at the same time, the Eagles still had plenty of opportunity. I mean, throughout the entire game to maybe at some points make better decisions defensively, mainly in the second half. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at it from that aspect of it because there are two sides to every story, and I feel like
Mhm.
on one side you look at it as Chiefs fans. I mean, yeah, it was a lucky call, but it also could have went both ways, honestly.
Yeah.
So I won't slander you unless you said something wrong, and I mean what you said was right. So I'll let it go.
Ethan, I mean, I think you're spot on there, man. Because I obviously think that just when that was the call again, people obviously went back and forth, and all Eagles fans on Twitter are it's gonna be a long off season, but again, I feel like the game was called pretty consistently. There weren't very many egregious mistakes, and again, I completely agree that I mean, James Bradbury, as you said, admitted to the holding penalty. So
Yeah.
So I mean that is about as tough as close as you can come if you're an Eagles fan. I mean, it would have been an entirely different game. Obviously, probably would have gone to overtime. But I don't think it's that situation where Saints fans were super mad at the refs for another pass.
Yeah, or excuse me, it was Roby Coleman.
Yeah. That a couple years ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that. Oh, good lord, that call. I think it's different when it was. I mean, actually, it's the exact same thing as the Super Bowl right now, and I mean, with all penalties, except that one was a blatant missed call.
Right.
This one could have went either way. I think that's the main difference. Is he hit him well before the ball even was in the vicinity. It was catchable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, two other things. One, the Rams didn't win that Super Bowl, so I mean, that karma was given. But at the same time, I mean, no, there's 60 minutes of football to be played. For the 10 seconds that might happen where something doesn't go right, you can't completely blame it on one specific moment 90% of the time for most of these games. So, no, I mean, I think that was it's pretty much the exact same situation. The Saints probably could have done a better few things moving the ball that game anyways, compared to that one hit. And like I mentioned, the main outlier is, however, that was a blatant missed call. Should have been called PI, not even a question. But this one could have went either way, to be honest, and they obviously went one way instead of the other. Most people don't agree with it. I mean, I'm really not looking too much into it because I feel like there was plenty of other opportunities the Eagles defense could have made for this, especially in that second half.
Yeah.
Correct.
Go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
And let me be clear: both of you gentlemen will find a way to slander me anyway. So I don't really have to say anything controversial. I will get slandered by both Danny and Ethan. Danny and Ethan, because I know them both and have known them both for a long period of time, probably too long. Anyway, we will now, since we are a little short on that segment, we will move into Pitt basketball. And as I mentioned in my tweet before the program this evening, how is Pitt still unranked? Gentlemen, your thoughts on Pitt not ranked? I believe they're ranked 29th in today's AP rankings. Yes, thank you.
So you got to look at, there are a lot of D1 basketball programs, and
Correct.
you got to rank all 20, and you got to rank the top 25. And there's a certain group of people that are in charge of ranking these teams. That's how it works for all of this. And I think if you want to really get to we'll start nitty gritty. Let's see. In the Big 12, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nationally ranked teams in the Big 12. In the Big East, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 in the Big East. Let's see. You want to scroll down. There's none in the Big 10. Or excuse me, I lied. There's 2 in the Big 10. And then the rest you'd pretty much have to go to the ACC for. And the ACC, if you look where the ACC is, the ranked teams are Virginia, Miami, and North Carolina State. Those are the other 3 ranked teams. So, in fun fact, Pitt beat Virginia.
Correct.
Pitt in in fact, did beat Miami, who is right now is playing Duke right now. Duke is unranked. I don't believe. I don't know. I can't tell you off the top of my head if they beat NC State. Do we know if they beat NC State?
I believe they did.
Okay, so Pitt's beat all three of these teams. So worst comes to worst, if it comes down to a tie in some point, Pitt has the edge. Pitt is tied right now in first place in the ACC with the Virginia Cavaliers. They're ranked 7 right now. Both are 11-3 in ACC play. I think where it lies is the overall conference play. However, they are 18-7. Overall, 18-7 compared to a Virginia 19-4, Miami 20-5, and NC State's 20-6. That is, I think that's going to be their one blemish because they have had a really good year. If you want, I mean, let's look at their stats. They're scoring. They're outscoring their opponents by nearly 200 points, just over 1,800 points compared to almost 1,700 that they've allowed. Points per game, they're averaging 74.9 points a game. They're giving up only almost 68. I mean, let's see, their field goals made. They're shooting 45% from the field. They're allowing only 41%. So, I mean, I could go on and on. These stats are really good. This Pitt's men's basketball team has had a heck of a turnaround from last year. I think the only reason they're not nationally ranked is that overall record. It's not showing the best of what they can do. I mean, some of their losses, they lost to Vanderbilt. Right here, I can see they did beat NC State by 8, 68-60. They lost to Clemson 75-74 at home. They lost to Duke 77-69. They lost to Florida State 71-64. They lost again. I mean, they haven't lost since Florida State, but I mean, they're just losing some of these key games that they can win, and I feel like that's impacting it. I think one of the biggest losses was to West Virginia. 81-56, especially at the Pete, like at the Jungle. Like, what are we doing, guys? At the zoo? Come on.
Yes, the Oakland
I
Zoo.
think so. I think just losing those important games are what's hurting them right now. Because in ACC play, they look really good.
Yes.
I think another key thing that you got to remember about this team is they're able to win these close games. They give up some important moments, which is definitely another blemish on the record. But they're able to come out from these close games. If you want to look at both Duke games and North Carolina games, these programs are historically known for being really good. And now that they have new head coaches, I mean, being able to pull out these close games against them is really important. So a lot of credit to this Pitt men's team, but they're going to be in the March Madness tournament. They're going to be in the ACC tournament. So overall, that's where you got to look at it from an overall standpoint. However, not being ranked, it stinks, but I can see why.
Yes. Yeah, that was actually my next question is Danny and I have both been on record as saying that we both believe that Pitt is at this point a lock to get into the NCAA tournament. Ethan,
they're going to be put at a 10 seed as of right now.
Yes. Danny, you wanted to say something?
No, I just, again, I think Ethan's spot on that, man. I think the reason why...
What?
Danny's been saying the right stuff. I like that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
He says the stuff that I won't say.
Yeah, the right stuff.
I say the wrong stuff.
Hey, that's why we're a good mix, right?
Exactly.
No, but I think again, not to sound like a broken record, but I think Ethan's spot on. because I think what Pitt fans and people around the country might be losing track of that are like, oh my gosh, why is Pitt not ranked? It's because when you look at the ACC, it's not as historically dominant as it's been. You know, the days of Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett, like absolutely dominating for Duke, that's over. They're not programs like that anymore, loaded with 5-star talent. I think that's the reason. It's not like Pitt has guys like that, and it's not like we're playing in the ACC specifically against teams like that. So I think the ACC, I think the ACC is kind of being viewed as the 4th or 5th best conference in comparison to the Big East or even SEC, because they got a couple top heavy teams like
the SEC. Oh my heavens to bet. The SEC in the Big Ten, no matter what, for 90% of college sports, will always be the top 2 conferences. There's no doubt about it. They run the yard, especially if you want to go to football. The South takes football beyond seriously. They take it to heart, obviously, sometimes more than they do in professional sports. But to your point, the ACC as of recent hasn't been anything really important. And if you want to look at, I mean, if we'll look at football and basketball, since they are the two most popular sports, I mean, football for ACC, Pitt kind of just got back onto the good side of things. Clemson's always been exceptional. And then you got a few mid teams like Virginia, Miami, Duke, North Carolina, Boston College, Florida State, Virginia. So I mean, it's hard because you also have other teams that are in the ACC for different sports that they're not in the same sport for like football. Say football, like the ACC, we have Notre Dame in the ACC right now. Technically,
Right.
it was just a 1-year plan for them in the ACC in recent memory, but in here in the ACC, they're in here again, but obviously they're not as successful. They're 2-12 in ACC play, so that's kind of going to put a diminish on your record as where you have the Big 12. You got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got 8 teams with winning records, and 5 of the 8 of them are nationally ranked. So,
Yeah.
I mean, where you got to look forward to, I'm going to make a very bold prediction. Someone in the Big 12 is winning the national championship this year. You can't have 5.
Oh, hot take.
You can't have 5 ranked teams in one conference and none of them come out at least to the Final Four, the Elite 8. That's just impossible. So, someone in the Big 12 is winning the national championship this year. I don't buy into Purdue winning. Yeah, I get it. They've lost the last 2 games. I can remember 2 of the last 3 games. They lost to Indiana, and then I forget who they just lost to last night. But they haven't been able to win these close games like kind of like Pitt has. And if you look at it, I mean, you got other conferences that are really good at it, but to me, the ACC is not winning nothing. The only thing besides like the ACC tournament, no one from the ACC is going to win anything for the March Madness. That's not really a shock or surprise to anybody.
No.
Where you got to look at is Big 12, Big 10 in the SEC for the national championship contenders. I honestly think that someone from the Big 12 might win it, if I'm being real with you guys, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Danny.
No, I mean, again, I completely agree, and I just again want to go back to what we were saying about Pitt, because I think too. Look, the Pitt is hitting their stride recently, but teams in the Big 12, to Ethan's point, have been ranked and dominating teams from the beginning. Look, Pitt was not dominating teams from the beginning, and they're still not dominating teams. Like we played UT Martin our first game, I believe. So I mean, that is not exactly a powerhouse. So and college basketball junkies, college basketball people that have votes in the AP poll, they want to see resume wins. To your point, again, the ACC does not have a ton of resume teams, not a ton of quad 1 teams as opposed to recent years here. So that's just I think that's again more of why Pitt is not ranked at the moment. But I mean, I think for Pitt to Pitt's got to just keep controlling what they can control, because obviously you can only play the teams that are in front of you, and I think Pitt's been doing an excellent job with that, of staying the course, staying locked in, staying focused. Because again, I think they've really done a nice job of building. Right? You talk about college basketball and sports in general. It's not about where you start; it's about where you finish. Not to sound too cliche, but so. For Pitt fans listening, I think there is a sense of optimism here because, again, Pitt is controlling what they can control. So I look for that to be, key for them moving forward.
Exactly. No, Danny, you hit the nail on the head. I really like what you said about not being able to beat big teams. And granted, the ACC as a whole, you're not going to be playing a lot of big teams very often. You're going to be playing smaller teams. So, I mean, against big schools, they lost to Virginia by 31. Then they beat Virginia Commonwealth. They beat Alabama State. They beat FDU. They beat William and Mary. Some big names. They did beat Northwestern and NC State, but one of those is an ACC rival. Then they lose to Vanderbilt. You beat some more smaller schools. Then you beat ACC contenders. So, I mean, if you're going outside of the ACC with some big contenders, I mean, that's where I think that's where you got to see where they're struggling with, especially when you head to the March Madness. You're going to be playing a lot of big schools. And if you're not used to that, you're not getting them a lot. You're not, given that opportunity or contest, it's going to be harder for them to keep up with, especially in close games.
Right.
And being a complete silly goose, something I completely missed in about the SEC. It's 100% the Crimson Tide. The Crimson Tide are number 1 right now in all of college basketball. They're 12
Yeah.
in the SEC. They're 22-3 overall. That's an 88% win percentage. They're undefeated at home. See, that is just, I mean, it's funny because Alabama's dominated football for the longest time, mainly thanks to Nick Saban, but now it's kind of transferring over to basketball. So
Yeah, rules over rules.
Alabama and Purdue have just been put up on these pedestals for coming up in the March Madness bracket. I'm not going to lie. None of these teams have, in recent memory, at least a good history of making a deep run into the tournament. So, I mean, I'm not really buying anything anyone's selling right now. Tennessee's the only one in the Southern Conference that is ranked and has at least somewhat experience of making a push in March Madness in recent history. They're ranked 10th right now at 8-4. So, I mean, it's every year is exciting for March Madness. It's honestly college basketball I enjoy so much, especially now that I'm in college. I really can value it a lot, and I find it a lot more fun than the NBA. And I love March Madness. It's a very exciting time, especially because football is taking a break. Hockey's kind of getting ready to head into the playoffs, so it opens up a door of opportunity for fun stuff to happen. And we're not even scratching the surface yet of the new year. So it's exciting stuff to see as March Madness is getting closer and closer to us, as also the conference tournaments as well are going to be opening up.
Yeah, Selection Sunday, I believe, will take place on March the 12th, I believe. So we're gonna have to have Ethan back on here for his expert. Well, he's not officially an expert, but
not officially yet. I'm hoping to get there sooner rather than later. But
yes,
yeah, the fun has definitely begun.
Yes. And you segued us into what I think will be our final subject this evening. Is I apologize, my webpage seemed to have crashed a minute or so ago. Thank you, Internet, for that. I don't know, it just crashed. Anyway, the Penguins. We're gonna talk about the Penguins here. They lost, I believe, 6-0 against Los Angeles their last time out. Ethan, and gentlemen, your thoughts on just the Penguins as of late?
Oh my God! Don't even.
Yes.
The Penguins.
All right, Ethan first. Ethan first.
The Penguins. Thank you, Zach. The Penguins this year have given me more of a headache and a heartache than I think I've had in all of recent memory, and a large factor of that having to do with it is health, and that goes with Tristan Jarry and the goaltending situation the Pens got going for him right now. It is just the lack of offense in certain moments in offensive production. Then you got lack of defense at certain moments whenever the offense is actually working. And on top of that, most of all, the goaltending is just atrocious. Really, it is.
Yes.
And because Tristan Jarry's not there to play, because he's hurt, which is obviously not his fault at any stretch of the imagination. It's just terrible timing. I mean, so they go to Anaheim, they win a game they must win. They get outplayed by Colorado at home coming out the All-Star break. I can somewhat understand it because it's the first game back, kind of still relaxed, but they got outplayed for 2.5 periods. They didn't make any adjustments. They got lucky, to be honest. They got lucky because they were outshot the entire game. They were frankly outplayed the entire game, kind of like Kansas City and San Francisco a few years ago. So goodness gracious. So then they beat Anaheim, which is really good to see. Granted, Anaheim is the second to third worst team in the entire NHL. So don't want to act like to take that too much as it is. Take it as what it is. But then you lose 6-0 to a good Kings team. Kings are about the same record spot, same point spot as the Penguins are. So 6-0 though. That's just bad. Defense bad. Goaltending bad. No offense. Crosby gets thrown out of the game with 10 minutes left.
That was my next question. Sidney Crosby is obviously.
Crosby's always been known for arguing, though, so it's not like this is something new. But I feel like at the same time he's getting frustrated.
Yeah.
Our top three. I mean, we don't know how. For some reason, we brought them back together for another year, which I don't understand. Not that I don't think what they've done is exceptional, and they're not all incredibly talented. I think frankly, all of them are Hall of Fame bound. But it's. I don't know why would you do that? That just doesn't make sense to me. We need to face the music. It's time to start moving forward. Penguins need to be making moves. And the problem with all of Pittsburgh sports is mainly with the Steelers and Penguins because their owners are frankly not brain dead and, money driven. But for some odd reason, we're so loyal. No, Make moves to win games.
Yeah.
Make moves to win you games. The Steelers write out contracts to the very end with all their football players. Mason Rudolph being a key example of that. Devin Bush being a key example of that. We're not making moves and getting picks. If we do, it's at the very last second with the last day or with a couple hours left in free agency. The Penguins need to make an adjustment. Clearly, something is not right. They've tried moving around the lines. It's not working. Third line production has been down. Goaltending health-wise has been atrocious. Penguins need to do something, whether it be in front office or be with a player. It needs to be done. This season's not it. I honestly am not surprised if the Penguins' playoff streak breaks. I don't think it does. I think they still have a chance to make it work, but they're playing their next two games are going to be really interesting. They play at San Jose tomorrow at 10:30. That should be a win. San Jose is not that good of a team. They're struggling right now, especially in that rebuild era. And then they go to the Isles on Friday. They're playing against the Islanders at the Islanders. So that's going to be a very important game. I think that's where you kind of see what's going on officially because it's in division. We've been there before. It's a hard place to play, but the Penguins always manage to make it a close game no matter what. Hopefully Jari can be back sometime soon. I'm hoping that's the case. I haven't seen any reports to say otherwise yet. But I want to take everything away from Danny for Danny not to be able to say anything. But Danny, please continue. Tell me I'm wrong. I dare you.
No, you were not wrong, man. Again, I keep saying it, but you hit the nail on the head. Dude, again, I just think it's a question of
That's
All right.
sound effects.
Nice sound effects right there, man.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Where did that come from? Danny, go ahead. I'm sorry for Zach interrupting. What are we doing?
Zach just found a new toy, but
I did.
But yeah, man. Again, I just think right now the problem with the Penguins is its lack of consistency, man. I mean, to your point, we should beat the Sharks tomorrow, but we lost the Sharks coming off the going into the All-Star break, man. So we just don't know what version of the Penguins we're gonna get. Are we gonna get a team that can, hang with the big dogs like they did against Colorado, or are we gonna lose 6-0, man?
Danny, don't even say they did not hang with the big dogs. Colorado Avalanche are the Pittsburgh Penguins of the West right now, and they came out and blew us out the water. They blew us out the water. It's atrocious.
Yeah, you're right, man.
San Jose against Colorado, frankly, they did not deserve to win. They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't play full. I think the biggest problem, besides with what you said, inconsistency, they can't play a full 60 minutes of hockey.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem out of all of them.
Yeah. And I mean, that again, I just don't see to your point, we're inconsistent, and I think it's gonna be more of the same come playoff time. I do believe we're going to get in, but I think it's going to be the same result because we always decide, maybe the big three can have another year, man. Maybe Crosby, this will be the year that they lead him to the Stanley Cup like they did in 2016, 2017. This is a new NHL, man. It's ruled by the young guys,
The second oldest team in the NHL, if you're counting average age. And it's funny because 3 years ago we were one of the youngest. Or, well, I guess you could say back to, 5 years ago, but 2017, we were one of the youngest teams in the NHL. 5 years later, we are the second oldest team. And you know why? Because we bring back majority of the guys we have. We need to start the rebuild. Need to start the rebuild. It's time to embrace it. The thing the Steelers struggled with until the year he left, they did not have their successor set and planned on for Big Ben. The Penguins, offensively, I think they do got their new top three with Russ, Getzel, and Raquel. I think you can work with that. I think you can work with those three. They're manageable. They're good. They're really good players.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Penguins are lacking most is goaltending. But because they can hold over with some defensive maneuvers. I think it's still able to be fixed. But you got to look into defense too. Who's going to replace Letang? Who's the next guy? Dumoulin? Heck no. Are you kidding me? Not Brian Dumoulin. Not Chad Rutley. Yeah, that's buzzerworthy. I don't know why you didn't put there. There you go. But it ain't Chad Ruedel. I want it to be P.O. Joseph because I think he has a lot of potential. I think he's, a second or third line defenseman at best.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets there at any point. But I mean, you got to start looking towards a new. You got to start replacing up those guys because those guys don't have very long. I don't know. I don't think Letang rides out the 6 year he has left. I don't think he plays hockey for 6 more years. I don't think he has it in him.
Nope.
Not because I don't think he's good enough, but I think health wise, it's for the
Right.
best. He just steps away because
Yeah.
he's not doing well. And on top of that, Malkin, to me, he is actually having not a terrible year. I'll give him that, but I honestly think it would have been for the betterment of the team if you just let him walk in free agency or somehow find a way to deal him out in the near future. Because you got to think, Crosby's going to end a Penguin. He's going to die a Penguin. There's no question. Letang, I want to believe he will. I want to think he does. Again, Pittsburgh's very loyal, like to their players, like I mentioned. So I think he'll finish a Penguin. But Malkin, use it while you still got some draft capital or some sort of value to it. You gotta utilize what you got, and you gotta realize, wake up with the times, man. It's time to make a move. It really is. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get into too much depth of that. We don't have the time to really dig deep into that. But my goodness gracious, make a move, and at that point, you address the issues: inconsistency, not playing a full 60 minutes of hockey. They struggle in overtime when you got to play extra time. Granted, I get it. You're gassed. You're out of it. I mean, when you had the second oldest team coming on for an extra 5 minutes of hockey, it's going to wear and tear you down. There's no question about it. That can come and go with age, but there's a lot of things that need to be addressed with this Pittsburgh Penguins team, more from where we had last year. So
Correct.
Yeah.
And yes, I do think we did our next episode. We can, if you would like to, Ethan, we could delve deeper into the nitty gritty as far as the issues with the Pens and stuff like that. But that, I believe that will be it for this episode of All Things Sports. I want to thank both Danny Shamholzer and my guest, or our guest, Ethan Pizarski. And we will talk to you next time. Well, first of all, Danny, any parting words?
No, I just thank you boys for having me on. I always enjoy getting the 30 minutes out of my somewhat day to rant to you guys and just be able to like let the load off and of everything. Because I mean, most of my day spent with analyzing sports, talking about it. So talking to you boys is always good. I miss you guys back home, no question about it. Can't wait to see you guys soon.
Yes, and Daniel.
No, man, just always appreciate Ethan for hopping on, and always appreciate you for making this whole production run here, man. So love doing it.
All right, and with that, we will talk to you next time right here on the All Things Sports podcast. Oh.